Hey there, it's Cynthia with the Dinner Fix, where I help answer the question, what's for dinner? Today I'm going to be making an Italian classic, a beloved Italian-American classic, lasagna. Now, I don't know that there's any one right way to make lasagna. You can have vegetable lasagnas, meat lasagnas, lasagnas with meatballs, with turkey, with chicken, all kinds of things. Today we're going to be making a tomato and spinach lasagna. So you can get your meatless Monday on, or if there's any other day in the week that you just are looking for something rich but maybe not so meaty, this is a great dish to make. So let me show you how to make it. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to soak our noodles. Now, you may be accustomed to first taking a noodle like this, boiling it before you use it. We're going to be taking a slightly different approach for this recipe. So what you're going to do is I'm going to fill, I have here a 9x13 dish pan. I'm going to fill this with really hot tap water. All right, so I've got this filled with like the hottest tap water I could possibly get out of the tap. And to that, we're going to add some lasagna noodles. I have here 1, 2, 3, 4. 6, 7. I've put 8 noodles in here. We're gonna let these soak for 20 minutes. So I have a timer that I've set here. And what this is gonna do, it's going to ensure that our noodles cook through fully, but you're not gonna end up with a mushy noodle, which is sometimes a problem with lasagnas, and we don't want that. So I'm just gonna set this aside out of the way. All right, and we're gonna move on to the next component of our dish, which is the spinach. So I have here some cheesecloth that I'm setting over a cutting board, and I have here, this is just some frozen thawed spinach. You can do one of two things. You can just thaw it out overnight in the fridge, or you can zap it in the microwave for like 15 minutes, just churning it occasionally to get that warm for 15 minutes, just until it's thawed through. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get as much of the liquid out of the spinach that I can. So as you can see, I've placed this, whoa, see it's dripping already. So I'm going to take this, and much like you would squeeze cheese, if you've ever made cheese, or ever seen people make cheese, you're just gonna give this a squeeze, being really careful not to make a mess. Might wanna do this in a bigger bowl. Probably should do it in a bigger bowl, but let's see if I can accomplish this without making too much of a mess here. And what you can do is you can just continue to kind of twist this from the top, and that's going to help to apply pressure and release some more of that water. Now, we're not going to throw this water away, at least not all of it. We are going to hold on to some of it because we're going to use some of it to flavor the ricotta, the cheese mixture that's going to go into our lasagna. So really help punch up the flavor of our dish. I'm going to get rid of all the water without getting rid of the flavor. And there's a lot of water in spinach, as you can see. All right, that looks good. There's still a little bit of water in here, but I've gotten most of it out. I've also managed to rip my cheesecloth in a couple of places just from all the pressure that I've applied. So as you can see, I've gotten about 3/4 of a cup out of the spinach. So pretty good effort there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the spinach, I'm gonna put it in a food processor, and I'm gonna pulse this a few times. And the reason we're doing this in a food processor is to get this chopped up really finely, but get all those pieces uniform. If you don't have a food processor, you could certainly just chop this up on a cutting board. But this is gonna speed up the process. And again, it's gonna ensure that it's all a uniform shape. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to clean out the bowl that we had the spinach in originally, and then I'm going to just put this back in here. All right, let's dry that out. Let's move this over here so you can actually see. Still getting used to this idea of having a camera watch me while I do this, so I appreciate your patience. All right. Now I'm not going to set this aside in the sink yet because I am going to be using the food processor again in a little bit. So, all right, got most of that out. I'm just going to set this aside, set our spinach aside. All right, and let's move on. So I have here a large skillet. I'm just going to heat over just medium heat. To this, I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I have here half of a minced large onion. And we're just going to cook this onion down until it begins to soften and becomes translucent. That's going to take about 5 minutes. All right, now while that cooks, I have here 3 cloves of garlic. I'm going to give these a mince. Love the smell of garlic. You know, it's funny because growing up, I never ate garlic. My mom doesn't cook with garlic because she didn't grow up really eating garlic, and my dad can't stand, well, first the scent, which I know, crazy, right? He can't stand the scent and really the flavor, at least in large quantities. He can eat like some garlic if it's mixed into to food, but like if garlic is the predominant flavor in a dish, forget about it. He's not going to want to eat it. So it's kind of funny that as I went through life, I seem to have acquired an insatiable appetite for garlic. I put it in just about everything, and I'm not afraid of using it in large quantities. Although for this lasagna, I don't know, 3 garlic cloves doesn't seem like all that much. All right, so that looks pretty good. We are going to add our onion, or our garlic. Sorry, our onion's already cooking. So we're going to add that garlic. We're going to add just a pinch. So I'm just going to give this a little shake of red pepper flake. We're going to let this cook for about 30 seconds just until it's fragrant. Garlic. Smells so, so good. All right, now we're going to add a can of crushed tomato. And you want to be careful dropping that in because it will splatter. Let's get all that tomatoey goodness out of there. How's that looking? All right. Give that a stir, and we're just going to let this cook until it's thickened, which is going to take about 10 minutes. All right, but not before adding just a little bit of kosher salt, a little fresh cracked black pepper, And then we're gonna add about a 1/4 cup of that spinach that we drained earlier. Whoa. All right, I'm just gonna stir that in. So we're adding spinach into the sauce. We have that spinach water, which we're gonna mix into our ricotta, as I mentioned earlier. And then the rest of the spinach is actually going to get mixed into the ricotta as well. So we're adding the spinach flavor at different layers of this recipe, or different stages of this recipe rather, so that the spinach you get in every single bite, and it's not just like a tomato and cheese lasagna and you're wondering, where's the spinach? All right, so again, this is gonna cook for 10 minutes, just until it is nice and thick. And I'm actually gonna drop the heat on this down to, I don't know, like a medium low. Let's move on to our ricotta mixture. So for the ricotta, we're gonna need our trusted food processor again. To this, I'm gonna add some of the spinach water that we reserved. I'm not gonna need all of this, so let me dump what I don't need. All right, and then we can't forget our ricotta. So I have here whole milk ricotta cheese. I'm gonna throw this into our food processor along with our spinach water. Okay, and we're just gonna process this until it's smooth. All right, that looks pretty good. Now to this, we're gonna add a few other ingredients. All right, so I have here some Parmesan cheese. Oh, and this looks so good. We're gonna add an egg. Oh, there goes our timer for our noodles. Drain those in a minute. All right, we're gonna add a little bit of salt, some pepper, and then the final ingredient, I'm gonna add some julienned basil. So I just have here some basil leaves. I haven't julienned this yet. I did rinse these. So what I've done is these are stacked on top of each other. I'm gonna roll these up, and then I'm just gonna give these a slice. And to this, I'm gonna add about half of this basil. The other half is gonna go into our sauce once it's finished cooking. So that looks pretty good. Let's process this some more. Oh, it's beautiful. Let me show you what that looks like. See how pretty that is? It's really good. All right, so we're going to take, remember the rest of that spinach? Yeah, I haven't forgotten about it. We're gonna take this ricotta mixture and we're just gonna pour it into our spinach, and we're gonna give this a good mix. All right, so I'm gonna give this a mix. All right, I'm gonna set this aside. Now don't think I've forgotten about that timer that went off. Those were our lasagna noodles that I need to drain. At the same time, this sauce is looking considerably reduced, so I'm actually gonna turn this off at this point. I'm gonna stir in what's left of that basil. Actually, not that stem, don't want that part. All right, so we're gonna stir this in, get it nice and incorporated. Oh man, this is gonna be good. I bet you're wishing you were my neighbor right now. This is gonna be delicious. All right, so that is ready. Our ricotta mixture is ready. Let's drain those noodles. All right, so our noodles are drained. I'm just gonna set these aside. A little piece of basil can go in there. All right, and then the final component to this lasagna is mozzarella cheese. So I have here just some whole milk mozzarella. I'm gonna just grate this coarsely. Let's go ahead and assemble that lasagna. Now, I'm not gonna be using this bad boy for this lasagna. If I were making like a full-size lasagna, certainly, but the lasagna I'm gonna be making today feeds about 4-ish people. So I'm actually gonna be making it in an 8x8 square pan as opposed to the 9x13 rectangular pan, which you would typically use for a lasagna. So I have my pan here, and you're probably wondering, Cynthia, how are you gonna fit this long noodle into this smaller receptacle? Well, I'll show you in a minute, but first I need to get me a spoon. So I'm gonna take some of this sauce, and you kind of just want to visually divide this into like fifths. And this doesn't have to be precise. I mean, this is a very forgiving dish. If you don't get the exact quantity right, you're not going to ruin it. But you want to just kind of cover it enough, or put enough in here that it's kind of nicely covered. There aren't any bald spots. Let's kind of spread this out a little, but you also don't want to douse so much sauce that all of the sauce ends up on the bottom of your lasagna. We're really just using this to help the lasagna to keep from sticking to the bottom. Now to this, we're going to start to add our lasagna noodles. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, about 1/3 of the way down, just give that a snip. Now we're not going to throw this away. We're actually going to use it as half of another noodle. So we're just gonna proceed like this. See, how'd you look at that? So we get a total of 3 noodles on the bottom, and it's okay that that's not complete. I mean, you're gonna like cut through this anyway, so if anything, you're making the slicing part easier later on. So now we're gonna add 1/3 of our ricotta mixture. So, you know, just kind of visually divide that as best you can. That piece was eager to get in there. And get about 1/3 of it in there. That looks to be about 1/3. And we're just gonna spread this out. You could use a spatula for this, you could use a spoon, you could use an offset spatula. I'm just gonna use the same little spatula I've been using here. And you just want to spread that out as best you can. It smells amazing in here, y'all. Amazing. Okay. All right, that looks good. I think I'm overthinking this. Okay. All right, and then we're going to add about 1/3 of a cup of the mozzarella. Not 1/3 of the mozzarella, 1/3 of a cup of the mozzarella. All right, so then we're gonna take about 1/3 of our remaining sauce. I'm just gonna spoon that over. Spread that out. And getting it all the way out to the edges. All right, now we're gonna take our noodles and we're gonna proceed as before. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm trying to get like every last little bit of saucy deliciousness all up on this lasagna. Yeah, that's fine. All right, we're gonna take what's left of our cheese. I'm just gonna sprinkle it over the top. This is gonna melt all bubbly and delicious. I'm gonna use my bench scraper to try and scrape up what's left of this cheese. All right, that's okay. There's a lot of cheese in there. All right, so, and I get some foil. All right, so I have my foil here. I'm actually gonna spray this. If you use, or if you have like nonstick cooking spray, you can use that. This is just one of those little gadgets that sprays olive oil. So I'm just spraying that. And the reason I'm doing this is so like this cheese doesn't come off with the foil and then you're having to do one of these. No one wants to do that. Or maybe you do. Heck, I guess you can have all the cheese to yourself. Your guests can have all the cheese inside of the lasagna. All right, so cover this tightly. Gonna go in the oven, again, 30 to 40 minutes, and it's preheated at 375 degrees, and then I will show you what this deliciousness looks like once it comes out. All right, so it's been 30 minutes. I'm gonna check on our lasagna because it smells done. I hear bubbling. I hear gurgle, 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 bubble, bubble. So I'm very carefully, because there is going to be steam that's going to come out from under this. I'm going to remove the foil. Don't want to burn my fingers. Oh, it's stuck a little. That's okay. That olive oil didn't work as well as I hoped it would. So maybe I will get to lick this after all. Pick at that later. Fortunately, I have some more cheese that I grated. I felt like this was lacking a little cheese at the end, so I grated just a little bit more. Just a wee bit more cheese. I don't even think I'm gonna need all of this. Yeah, that's good. That's plenty. All right, so this is gonna go back into the oven for 10 more minutes. It's been another 10 minutes, so let's pull our lasagna out. Oh man. I mean, that's supposed to feed 4 people, but I think I could totally eat that by myself. Not that I should, but I think I could. So as you can see, our cheese has melted. Well, you probably can't see it from the top, but the sides are bubbling up. And then these little corners have crisped up a little. These are actually my favorite part of the lasagna are the corners. So what we're gonna do at this point is we're just gonna let that sit there. So that's gonna sit there for 15 minutes while that sets up, which is like torture when my stomach is grumbling. It smells and looks amazing and I just wanna eat it. But wait, we must. So turning the oven off, and I will be back to show you how to plate. This lasagna is set up nicely. I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of sunk in a little bit, which basically tells me it is ready to dig into. So I'm just gonna cut along, just make this as big as you want to make them. This does feed like 4 to 5, so I guess I could have just cut this in 4, but I'm gonna make a little slice just for me to taste. And what I find is when I am slicing lasagna or about to plate lasagna, I find it's easier to slice 2 slices at least, because it just facilitates being able to scoop it out. Same thing with like pie and cake. It's always easy if you make 2 incisions, even if you're only going to cut the 1 slice, at least for the first slice. It just makes it easier to pull out. And initially I was going to use the spatula, but I'm thinking I might have better success with something else. Oh, here we go. This narrow spatula, perfect. This is more my speed. And I'm gonna take this corner piece because the corners are my absolute favorite part of the lasagna. I love the little crunchy parts. All right, so here we go. The little part that, okay, there we go. How pretty does that look? All right, so we have, you can see the individual layers. I didn't cut that straight, but hopefully you can see there's individual little layers of the spinach, of the cheese, the lasagna noodle. Let's give this a taste. And because we let this set, it comes out in one piece instead of flopping all over my plate. But let's taste it. All right, I think I'm gonna eat this whole lasagna. It is absolutely delicious. All right, I'm gonna keep chowing down. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to make this at home. Please comment, share, like, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Enjoy.